Week 15 in the NFL. I don't think you want to talk about the Bears anymore.
I don't.
Yeah.
Don't even bring them up.
Yeah. You text me on Sunday and you were like, 49ers fans finally checking out. And then like I finally looked at y'all's game and I'm like, I'm not going to text him. I just went, nope.
I had a really bad feeling like an hour before the game. I was driving home from Lake Geneva. We were up in Lake Geneva with our family this past weekend. And I just had this bad feeling. I was like, this is going to be one of those games where you're like, how the heck did they lose by this much? Because I was like, I could hear like the narratives, like they were missing Bosa, they were missing McCaffrey, they were missing Trent Williams. I was like, I can hear all the narratives and I can just see the final score, being something big.
I do love how in football, it's like if your team has injury.
Oh no, a minute 25 in. This is a new record, guys. Maybe you guys can hear him.
First thing, like the fans.
Oh boy. Oh boy. What are we gonna do? Oh,
that was so obnoxious.
Already. Minute 25 in.
Come on, like. We were, and what's obnoxious is we were perfect, and then we're not.
Yeah, actually, this is the best video and audio quality that we've had in a while, too. I think, like where there's not even a delay in our voices or anything.
Spectrum, instead of cash, like if you want to sponsor the podcast and give me like fiber optic internet, that would be awesome. This is trash. I'm gonna say. At least I think it's me. I don't think it's you because I'm the one that keeps bugging out. But anyway, I think that the main topic we want to cover today is actually college related because the greatest coach, arguably in NFL history,
our favorite guy. There goes any chance of us getting him on the podcast.
Yeah, because he's gonna be busy. Like, I think he really was considering coming on our podcast. I think he looked at the viewership and was like, I can really.
Yeah, he said something like he was considering it, and I don't know what happened afterwards, but
yeah, he decided Pat McAfee made more sense, and I'm like, I get it.
Yeah,
he has a good audience. We do too, but
right.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I'm the slender-shouldered guy for anybody out there.
Yeah. So we had like some guy on Twitter like going back. I was the one going back and forth with him. Like it was oddly personal. Like I never I think it's because I said guys that wear jerseys of like guys that are 10 years younger than them. It's kind of loser energy. And I guess it really offended him.
Yeah. Which means he has 8 of them.
It's fine. I still going to say like I'm 31, not wearing a jersey. Not anymore. Like I did when I was maybe 22, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was probably the last time I really thought about doing it. But anyway, he got very personal coming back, insulted our podcast, which really hurt my feelings. As you can tell.
Really. I was devastated.
Yeah. But he what was weird is he started insulting our both. I think me, I thought.
I think I'm the slender-shouldered one.
Yeah, but it's like then the fat one. I'm like, which one are you talking about?
Yeah, you did say the fat one.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm the fat guy. Like I'm usually the one eating or drinking on the podcast. But anyway, hope he has a really, really, really painful NFC Championship loss.
I hope he's listening tonight, and I hope we're making his ears bleed. I am sure he's not, but it would be hilarious if we got him to hate watch.
He did follow us back on Twitter. So.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, because I followed him. I was like, hey, man, I'll get you up to 75 at least. He got us up to probably 20 real followers.
Yeah, the rest of them are bots.
If we actually tried marketing our show, which we did for like a month, where we did YouTube Shorts, and
it just blew up.
It was not sustainable just because it's like editing that stuff is so tedious. And we have no time on our schedules. I can barely fit this in. It's like we're doing it 10 o'clock
Yeah.
at
I have
night.
9 more tests to grade after this.
Yeah, I have 2 more beers to drink. I got to do dishes, and the worst part is our Christmas lights. I'm like too cheap to get the timer ones, so it's 34 degrees outside. And I have to go outside and turn them all off.
You're not able to turn your lights off and then with the switch inside.
No,
Oh,
I guess Christy technically could, but I think it's like on the same. I don't know how we set it up.
we get a little where our outside light is outside our door. I put a little like outlet in where the light bulb would normally go, and then I plug all my cord, where I plug an extension cord in that, and I have everything feeding into that. So I just switch it up. But 34 degrees is pretty warm right now. The wind chill is going to be 10 below zero here tomorrow morning.
Really, the front lights aren't a problem because there's like a plug-in right outside our front door, so that's easy. It's the Magnolia. Christy was very adamant on putting lights on that tree because it's cute, right?
Yeah, right.
But we had to run a separate extension cord like behind our HVAC, and there's an outlet back there. So like we just got like one of those green extension cords that like blends in with the landscaping, right?
Yeah.
You run it behind the bush. And so it's outside. And like last night was the worst because it's raining on top of that. It's freezing cold. It's raining. Like it's awful. And then I have to like dry everything off before because I don't want like water getting into the sockets and all
right.
that.
Yeah.
It probably will, but it's an outside socket. It's all built for outside anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm sure something will short circuit at some point, but
yeah, it happens every year. You got to buy new lights.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that extension cord is $20 at Home Depot. So
yeah.
I didn't really care. And we never use that outlet for anything else, but that's probably why it's there, honestly, because they're like, oh, they might want to plug in some Christmas lights. Because I was wondering, like, why is it there? Because it's not a hookup for the HVAC. That's completely separate. But anyway, going back to the topic of Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that was.
We need to start talking about our kids, and then people will really want to listen to what we have talking about. But anyway, Belichick not going back to the NFL. Number one, the NFL is so stupid. The fact that the winningest coach in the NFL probably couldn't get a job back in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really think like he probably looked at his prospects and went, my best option is North Carolina. That is a statement of how stupid a lot of the people in power in the NFL are. And not to single out your franchise, but I think your team is one of them.
Actually. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like the Bears would be a perfect place for him to go but the problem is there's too many power dynamics that get in the way because Belichick has to come in and implement everything himself.
Yeah, I'm sure Jim Harbaugh called him and said, hey, you want to do this instead.
Yeah, like honestly, the only reason Harbaugh's in the NFL right now is because there were going to be sanctions on him.
Yeah, they ran him out.
He would have never left Michigan if the whole what's his face?
Connor Stallions.
Oh, and I told a Clemson fan at work, and I went like, "Y'all better get ready. We're about to." And I started doing weed to troll them even more. I was like, "We're gonna spy on every practice." Like, you don't even know. I was like, Belichick might hire me, and I'll go and I'll start filming. I'll do it. But then I told them it's like, yeah, but Dabo also doesn't really know anything about offense. It's not really that hard to figure out. So. It's like
it's gonna be fun though. I mean, like. I want to see his Bible that he came up with.
I want to read that too.
I mean, but
North Carolina could maybe sell that for like NIL money. I would buy it.
Oh, 100%.
Well, and like they laughed at me at work for this, but I was like, actually true. I was like, people in like business management could learn something from somebody like that. Like building an organization from the top down. Like how everything works, you have a philosophy that you follow and you don't break away from it. And I don't think that happens in the NFL too much because I think so many people try to claim different like areas of power within an organization. And that's probably why Bill Belichick didn't really like make sense for an NFL team, I guess, because like the Bears, for example, like for Belichick to work, you really would have to fire everyone. Like team president all the way down. Like the only guy left would be McCaskey. Or I guess what's his name? George McCaskey.
Yeah, George McCaskey.
Yeah, so George McCaskey on. Like outside of him, everybody's gone. Even Poles, who has done theoretically a good job. It hasn't resulted in wins yet, but on paper, he's put together a good roster. But so somebody like Belichick wouldn't even fit in Chicago. You have to have like the perfect place. Like Dallas would never work because you have the Joneses wanting to run the show.
Yeah, hovering over everything.
Atlanta, you had Rich McKay and Terry Fontenot. So that, and like that's where Belichick realistically could have gone last year, but he wasn't even like a finalist for the job. So the more I thought about it, like when it started popping up that he was interviewing for this job, I thought it was brilliant. Because think about it this way. In college football, what has it turned into in the last 5 years?
All right, NIL has taken over everything. The transfer portal has changed everything.
You're turning rosters over constantly.
It's not when guys are getting recruited out of high school. Like 6 years ago, you were staying at that school. Like there's still guys like Cam Rising. Look at him. Like there's guys that are still in school that
He's
were
like
there
my
before
age.
COVID. Yes.
I'm 31 and Cam Rising probably went to high school.
Trevor Lawrence is the same age as Cam Rising.
That's crazy.
And Trevor Lawrence is in his fourth year in the NFL.
Yeah. He's on his second
Cam
contract.
Rising still has another year of eligibility.
Yeah. What sucks is like I even thought Cam Rising had like a little bit of ability to like maybe even go to the league and be a backup, but it's like by the time he gets there, he's gonna be like 28.
Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, but it's gonna be too late for him. So I don't know. Like the what was interesting is like so like randomly I met like a college assistant coach. I'm not gonna say what school, but like we were just hanging out at a bar, and this sounds like I'm lying, but I'm not. Like, the way I phrased it. I mean, it's not that interesting to be honest, but it wasn't Dabo. It was like an assistant coach at a lower level school. But he was mentioning like a lot of people are now like in college football. It's not even that they're wanting to be coaches, but think about there's a new department that a lot of these big programs are setting up. Personnel departments, because like they're all transferring in and out all the time.
Yeah.
You almost have to have a staff dedicated to scouting the rest of college football.
Like you're an SEC coach and you should scout the Big 12, even though you might never play any of those teams, but
you literally you should be sending if you're a South Carolina assistant coach if working for Shane Beamer, you need to be spending a lot of time at Mississippi State and Arkansas and Kentucky and like schools at the lower level, and then like spending practice time, like if you can get access, which I'm sure they wouldn't let you do, but like if you could get practice time or like an ability to, or the spring game at like Alabama. So like if a school above your tier that's getting like the 5 stars, like Georgia or whatever, if those kids like don't play their freshman year and transfer out, like you can find a guy. So I think Belichick's going to build like this really intricate system where he is going to have an advantage over the rest of the rest of college football, because he's going to find the 3 stars that are like actually 5 stars, like Stephon Diggs, for example.
Yeah.
Like should have never played at Maryland. And then like he's going to end up playing like that same kind of talent is going to end up as Puka Nacua is another one. Like why did he end up at BYU? Belichick would find him and have him in North Carolina.
And not only that, but think about like Belichick still has, like, I'm sure all the scouts for the Patriots are still guys that Belichick hired. So when they go to schools, he could probably call them up and be like, hey, who are you noticing? Who's a sophomore right now that who's a freshman that you're noticing?
Yeah.
And, like before they start to break out, I'll get them over here.
Yeah, I think that NFL assistant coaches that are, or like even player personnel people, I think they are going to make a lot of sense to run college football programs soon, because it's becoming I mean, college football has always been about players more than coaching, in my opinion. Like it's more about talent. Like because in the NFL, the talent gap doesn't exist. Like
Yeah.
the Chiefs, the difference between the Chiefs and like the Panthers isn't really that big. I mean, we literally saw that a few weeks ago. Like the Panthers nearly beat them.
Right.
And the Chiefs are probably going to win the Super Bowl, and the Panthers might end up with like a top 3 pick. Like the gap isn't that big, but the gap between like Boston College and Clemson is huge in terms of recruiting. So Belichick, with like the name, image, and likeness that you get at North Carolina, his pro personnel background and coaching ability, obviously. I mean, as long as he can get the kids to stay, I don't see the downside. Like, I'm starting to think like this is like I am a North Carolina fan through and through. Like, I can't. Like, I already started saying we. I ordered an Air Jordan bumper sticker for my truck. So, and people are like, "How long have you been a North Carolina fan?" I'm gonna be like, "My entire life." Like,
my life started today.
Yeah. I mean, I spent a lot of time, like, in Keenan Memorial, like, used to go to games all the time.
It's a shame that like it's already too late to get season tickets because those went quick today.
Dude, I'll tell you this though. North Carolina fans, like, if there's a scrimmage for basketball, they will go to that before they go to a football game.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's actually the case.
Do you know what I was just thinking? It's
What?
crazy that he ended up at North Carolina. Who's Belichick's favorite player of all time?
Lawrence Taylor.
North Carolina grad.
Yeah. I don't know if he wants Lawrence Taylor involved.
No, I don't think.
I don't know about that.
You guys, Lawrence is having a
Some
pizza
legal-
dinner at his house tonight, or a pasta dinner the night before the game. Would you guys go over to his house?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But Lawrence Taylor did get in North Carolina. Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm Belichick,
funny. That's kind of full circle.
yeah, if I'm Belichick though, I basically like call Julius Peppers and say, what do you need for like a player development program? Like, how can you help me?
Yeah,
Like,
I'd be calling Jordan too. I'd be saying, what money can you give us?
yeah, Julius Peppers, I would be like, I want the player, like NFL player development program. Like, you run that. And then I get Jordan's like, what money can you give to all these players via NIL? And like, they all become Air Jordan athletes.
I can't believe Belichick is going to play a game at the University of Charlotte next year.
I might go to that, honestly. Like, because I've never seen Belichick coach like in person.
Yeah.
And that might be my shot. So, I mean, the guy won 6, and like, that's the other thing. And before we move on to the games this week, but that's the thing that like college fans don't understand yet. I was like, this is like the Nick Saban of the NFL coming to coach in your ranks. And then the first thing they go is like, I mean, I don't know if he's a good hire. I'm like, who else would North Carolina go get?
Yeah.
Like, their last 2 coaches were Larry Fedora and like 78-year-old Mike Brown, who couldn't win at Texas at the end. Like, I mean, I get it. Belichick might not work. And I agreed with the Mac Brown hire because it's like.
Actually, Mac Brown did have a couple decent years.
Yeah.
There.
And he recruited Drake May. Like, Drake May was a top 3 pick. Like, they had players. And even Fedora had some good teams. And like Trubisky was a top 3 guy, even though probably shouldn't have been.
He went 10-2 with Trubisky.
Hey, Trubisky went 12-4 in the NFL.
He did.
Yeah,
He did.
Yeah. I mean,
the only good season the Bears have had in the last 13, 14 years.
Yeah, but I think it's a great hire. I'm very excited about Belichick going to college football. The only bummer is that it basically guarantees that he will not reach the all-time win mark. So Shula is safe on that. So
yeah,
which I guess is not sad for Shula, but I would have thought it would be like intriguing to try and follow that. And I'll never forgive Robert Kraft for pushing Bill Belichick out and preventing that record from being done, because Belichick is the best coach, at least since Lombardi, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anything else on this hire before we go to the games?
No.
I have to pull up the slides because remember I crashed out. There we go. All right. So Thursday night, it's a make or break game for probably both of these teams. Really the 49ers especially. What are they, 6-8?
Yes.
Or 6, they're 6-7. The Rams are 7-6.
Yeah.
But the Rams beat the 49ers about 2 months ago. So these teams are, I think, effectively playing for that like 7 seed. The Rams could maybe try and get back into contention for the NFC West. It's going to be hard for the Niners. I think the Niners are kind of playing to stay alive for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
The way the Niners played last week, like I'm wondering, was it because Chicago was just so inept, or was it because the 49ers were actually like starting to rebound their season a little bit?
And I think it was more of the former.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I mean, like, they had a good game plan, and the Bears didn't have a good game plan, and the Bears also had a lot of guys quitting. But at least Thomas
Brown is not your coach.
Yes, you can cross his name off the list. So
yeah, that was pathetic.
Yeah, it was. Well, in fairness to him, like,
it's a lot to ask.
Yeah, it was a lot to ask, and yeah, we'll talk about the Bears later. But yeah, I think it was a feel good victory for the 49ers after getting swamped the 2 weeks previous.
Yeah.
So they needed that one. But it is probably too little too late for them at this point.
Yeah.
And the Rams had a very impressive victory. I mean, they beat not the hottest team in the NFL, but one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and maybe the best team in the AFC.
Yeah.
In a shootout, in a game that we were kind of saying, like, we were Stafford.
You know why the Rams?
We thought when what's his face was coming back, Cooper Kupp, that things were going to start. When Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua came back, we thought that things were going to start like getting into gear for them, and it really didn't. And now this might not mean that they're going to take off, like, because they have been fairly inconsistent at times this year, the 49ers, or not the 49ers, the Rams. So this could very easily be like they were up last week. They might be coming back down again this week for all we know. But it'll be interesting. I think I'm going to go with the Rams to win this one. I think, like I said, yeah, last week was more of obviously the Bears being terrible and the 49ers just being so well coached.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're meeting pretty much an even match in terms of coaching style and coaching impact. I'm going to take the Rams. Oh my God.
No, I'm back. I had something in my teeth. So keep going.
So I'm going to take the Rams by 3 points here, 24-21.
Okay. Sorry about that. I had popcorn kernel in my teeth.
Okay.
I didn't want to give the audience me going like, no. But
that would give our buddy a lot of
I didn't think it would be so noticeable, but yeah. Anyway, so you're going the Rams, and I agree with you. I really like the Rams here too. And one thing I liked about the Rams' effort last week, and I talked about this briefly. One thing I kind of thought they got away from a little bit was Kyren Williams in the running game. Like, if you look back at some of their previous weeks, like, even though they won that Saints game the week before, I didn't like the effort that they had on offense. And I don't know, they just had felt a little lackluster. Like, the Eagles game was not great, obviously. They played a decent game against the Patriots, and they were really, I think, pretty bad against the Dolphins. So, like, over the last month, I felt like they got pass happy because they had, like, their two guys back, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had Kupp, they had Nacua, obviously great players. And I'm not saying, like, you don't target those guys. but I felt like they were just so pass happy where, they weren't controlling the ball. They weren't controlling the game. And the one thing they did do against Buffalo is I felt like they never let the Bills run away with things. And the Bills are a very runaway type of team. If you don't, the only way to beat Buffalo is you have to kind of control the pace of the game throughout. If you get behind against Buffalo, as San Francisco experienced, the game is over. Like, you're done. Like, if Buffalo gets a lead on you, their defense, the way they play, the way they fly around, I mean, they basically play like nickel 90% of the time. They're just a team that, they're gonna just suffocate you. But the way the Rams attacked it, if you look at that game against Buffalo, if you look at like the box score, they had 42 rush attempts to only 30 pass attempts. But the pass attempts that they had, 23 were completions. So if you think about it, nearly 60 plus plays that they had were either completions or carries. So what that tells me basically is that the Rams controlled the line of scrimmage. They controlled the ball. And they're going to have to do the same thing, I think, this week against San Francisco. And I think they can do that. My hope is that McVay doesn't get away with that. The only thing McVay sometimes does, I feel like he gets cute and wants to get his playmakers involved. But like last week proved, you can stay committed to the run game and still have Kupp and Nacua involved in your game. Nacua, I mean, he had like over 170 yards from scrimmage, and Kupp had nearly 100 yards and a touchdown. And even Tutu Atwell got involved. Like, you can get they went in the passing game, they were efficient and effective. That's where they need to stay. I don't think the winning formula for the Rams is, hey, let's have Stafford drop back 40 plus times. If they do that, they lose. But I think McVay's got it figured out. I'm going to take the Rams here, and I think the 49ers, they have their season end here. I'm going to go 27-17. I think the Rams make a big statement here. Kansas City, Cleveland. The line here, I didn't put the lines this week. I didn't have time to do that. As I mentioned, you and me barely have time to like do anything.
Yeah.
The time of year is awful too, but the Chiefs are only a 4.5 point favorite in this game, which is kind of crazy to think about. A 12-1 team and a 3-10 team. That really struck me because that's a line you would see for an 8-4 team versus a 6-6 team.
Yeah.
So Vegas is seeing this game as like Kansas City's like a 9-win team and Cleveland's like a 5-win team. That's kind of how I read it. That being said, I think this is actually a game Kansas City's going to win convincingly. I think the way their defense is set up to apply pressure to get the ball, I think this sets up really well. I think they stopped the run pretty effectively as well. I mean, you look at the Chargers last week, only putting up 17. I just don't see Jameis having a big game. And I think like Cleveland's defense can be like actually exploited a little bit. I'm going to take Kansas City here by 7, 24-17.
Yeah. I had mentioned last week on the podcast that it had been since October 20th. So when Kansas City last played San Francisco, that they covered a game. And sure enough, they didn't cover on Sunday night. But the weird thing was, by net success rate, they were actually unlucky to not have beaten the Chargers by more, which is kind of an unusual thing the way that played out. But
the argument that they were lucky to win that game is dumb, by the way. Because if he had missed the field goal, they would be unlucky.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
right.
It really, like, it was more of a ball don't lie scenario where, like, they earned that win. Like, they converted when they had to win. The Chargers are good, but
it was probably the best they played. They actually had the largest net success rate of any team in the league last week. So the fact that they won on a doink-in was ball don't lie. It was
real. Yeah. Really, they're two lucky wins in my opinion, the games they didn't control.
Did
and they
I
won.
did I predict a doink?
In that game?
Didn't I say something like Khalil Mack on the other sidelines while I don't?
You
No,
did.
no, but I think I predicted that the Chargers were gonna doink it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't
But
count.
see, no, but when the Chiefs doink it, it goes in.
Yeah.
Like it's the giant tease. So
Wow.
Khalil Mack's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
And
this
Matt
guy.
Nagy on the other sideline.
Got the doink.
Hey, Khalil, that one won
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, in your face, Khalil. But anyway, like really, if you look at the Chiefs, like this season, the whole narrative that they're like, I mean, I love the memes of like them doing like the satanic rituals, and it's the Chiefs, and like, it's just Mahomes like before the game, and they're just like doing like Illuminati tributes or whatever. But like those are funny, I agree, but the narrative's a little overrated. They are a team that probably is not as good as their record. I absolutely agree with that. That does not mean they are just an inherently lucky team, because they have, I think, 2 wins that really stick out as lucky. It's the Broncos win where they had the block kick. The Broncos were in a position to win that game. That just inexplicable play, like great play, but that doesn't happen very often.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, last week or the week prior, I guess, against the Raiders, where Aiden O'Connell just like, or I guess it was Jackson Powers Johnson just screws up the snap.
Yeah.
Like those are really
the referees calling
illegal formation,
but then turning the ball over.
Yeah, they called illegal formation instead of false start, and it's like
Yes.
if it were a false start, they would have played. It would have been dead.
Right.
Yeah. But
they won the last 2 games, 19-17, ironically.
But like people saying, oh, they only won the Ravens game by a toe tap. I'm like, number one, they were ahead in that Ravens game the entire game, so stop that.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 2, I think the Ravens still would have had to go for 2 to tie it. So like, or no, they were going to go for 2 to win. Excuse me. They would have had to kick the extra point. So let's just not assume like the Chiefs are just this like inherently lucky team all year.
Yeah.
The better argument to make about the Chiefs is that they are not as good as a 12.
Yes,
yeah, they're not as good as their record, which is a very fair statement to make, but that's not the same thing as lucky.
Mm-hmm.
This team to me feels like who's a team that was, but 12-1 is very strange. Like,
well, yeah, I've
never seen a team like
they
that.
had the worst point differential of any team that was 11-1 or better of any team in NFL history. Now, I mean, the fact that you got there is our buddy, friend of the show. I know I say this every week. Aaron Schatz said, they're 12-1, and you might say they don't deserve to be 12-1, but they're still 12-1. You know, and honestly, this is kind of my prediction for the Chiefs after like that kind of showing last week, where they did dominate the Chargers, maybe not on the scoreboard. I think this is the sign. I hate to say it.
They're going to win the Super Bowl.
I think it's a sign that they're about to turn it on. And I'm going to predict them to beat. They haven't won a game by more than 13 points this year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win this game 31-14. I think this is going to be a convincing victory for them. And we're going to be sitting here next week saying, oh boy.
See, I think their convincing victory comes on Christmas. I think that's kind of when it happens.
If we're able to watch it and Netflix doesn't.
Well, that'll be the other problem. Like everybody will be talking about, like, oh, I can't even watch the game because
Kansas City did this on purpose. They
worked with Netflix. They don't want everybody knowing the refs gave the game. I mean, Taylor Swift probably bribed the referee before the game.
Aren't you all excited to watch that with your families?
Oh, by the way, speaking of people that talk like that, like I love that Alabama missed the playoff. That's like the best thing ever. Because the funniest thing that I saw the entire weekend was Alabama fans going, I mean, why even schedule a non-conference? Like, why even have tough non-conference games? I mean, it don't even help you to have a good schedule. Let me read you Alabama's schedule. I know we're completely off the rails at this point, but who cares?
2 games in.
Like, because I mean, this is amazing. So, Alabama's non-conference schedule this year: Western Kentucky, South Florida, at Wisconsin, who was just awesome this year. That was their tough game in the non-conference, and then they played Mercer. So yeah, like if you don't play, like I don't even know how you would get worse than that. To be honest, like instead of
an NAIA school,
yeah, like instead of going Mercer, just let's go ahead and play Dorman High School. Like, yeah, get out of here! And you lost to Vanderbilt in Oklahoma. Like you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Shut the hell up. Watch SMU get beat by 15 against Penn State. We've seen y'all blow out somebody else before. It doesn't matter. Just shut the hell up. You don't deserve to be in the playoffs. You lost 3 games. Okay. But anyway, going back to the Chiefs. Yeah, I think they're going to turn it on. I just don't think it's this week. Cleveland's not a great environment to do that in. These games are always just low scoring in December. I think that's kind of what's got me. It's more the Chiefs offense than anything that has me apprehensive. I like the defense though. I think they're playing well. As they showed against the Chargers last week. Oh geez. Is this the I guess the Brian Callahan revenge game?
It is.
Yeah. That's the only appealing. I guess the Bengals are still in playoff contention.
I just need Chase Brown and Jamar Chase to stay healthy this week because I'm on the bye. Because
look at you flexing that you got a bye.
11-3. Top of the league.
Oh, the best though, like so I was playing we were doing this indoor golf league earlier tonight. We were all sitting at the bar before we were about to play, and we were talking about our fantasy teams. And it's like, oh, who you got this week? I'm like, got the bye. Yeah, got the bye. And then they're like, oh, show us your team, and I'm like, and it was my dynasty team. And I felt like such a D bag, like where I'm sitting there. Yeah, I got Lamar, Saquon, and Achane, Jefferson. Who's your tight end? Brock Bowers. And they're just like, how did you get all those? And I was like, tanked for 2 years. Did nothing but draft rookies. But I think, this game is definitely a game. Like if you're good in fantasy, you have players in this, specifically on the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the Bengals to me are like the softest team in the NFL. Like every game they should win by 2 touchdowns. I feel like their defense just lets any opponent get close because their defense is so horrible.
Is Lou Anarumo going to be does he get fired before any of the other head coaches on Black Monday?
The problem I have though is like, is it his fault?
Yeah, it might. Yeah, that's a good question.
Hendrickson's like their only guy that's any good.
Yeah,
like they don't put any resources on their defense. Like it's all in their pass game on offense. Like.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are talking about like, oh, they need to re-sign T. Higgins. I feel like you have to roster a team.
Yeah.
Like you can't have everything be a weapon.
Right.
Like I think the Bengals will win this game, but I think it's gonna be another like just part of me is like Tennessee could win. And Tennessee's horrible. Like
they're bad.
They're horrible. This is tough because the Bengals don't win blowout wins. They just don't. Like they haven't done it all year, really.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have a single like convincing win on their schedule this year? Like they beat the Panthers by 10, and they beat the Raiders by 17. That's it.
Yeah.
2 horrible, horrible teams. Even that Giants game, they won by 10. They didn't control that game.
No,
the Giants had so many chances. Like Daniel Jones just could not score.
That was an ugly game.
Yeah, that was awful. Like that was like the official night. I was like, Daniel Jones is 100% never going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, I was done. Like I was always 99% out, but I was 100% out after that game. I'm going to take Cincinnati very apprehensively, I guess. I'm going to take high scoring, of course, because these teams are Swiss cheese, 34-30. Give me Cincinnati in a wild one.
I'm gonna go. I was gonna pick something pretty close to that. 30-27, Cincinnati wins. That game last week with Tennessee, I only saw bits of it through Red Zone, but I was like, oh, that's a perfect 10-6 game.
You lost to Mac Jones and the Jags.
Did you see what Calvin Ridley did?
No.
So it was like
the revenge game.
2nd and goal. Yeah, that's right. Or not 2nd and goal. It was like 2nd and maybe 8 or 9 with like a minute and a half left. And he caught the ball. And they were inside the 15-yard line. And all he had to do was turn up the field to get a first down. Like, yeah, he was going to have to go through some contact. And he ran straight out of bounds. And they must have turned the ball over on down because I didn't see anything after that.
That's awesome.
Come on.
That's like a high school mistake.
Yeah.
Like the first thing as a football player you're taught is like, know you're down in distance. Like, and if you're a receiver or a running back, know where the marker is, or quarterback. Like if you're going to be carrying the ball, you need to know where your first down marker
is. Those are the types of things that makes people say about Calvin Ridley. He's betting on games again.
Yeah. I think it's just a classic. Tennessee is like one of those. It's just, I can't believe they actually fired Vrabel. Like it shows you how good he actually was, because the stuff they do now, I don't even think Callahan's that bad, but it's like, I think he's a good coordinator.
What's his name? Carthon. I mean, what a bad first 2 years.
Well, he's got to run his show, right?
Yeah, he ran Vrabel out of town. He had him fire his 2 coordinator, which he probably did need to. But whenever and I said this about Matt Eberflus last year, whenever you have to fire your 2, the only person I've ever seen it work for was Lovie Smith. Whenever you have to fire your 2 coordinators, it's never going to end well.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like, you fire your coordinators basically saying, like, hey, I'm not good at this.
Yes.
Like,
it's not going to work.
Like, firing one coordinator, I get. Like, it's like LaFleur, for example, couldn't figure out a defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm. But there was nothing wrong with the offense, right?
Yeah. If anything, it took too long to fire a coordinator.
Right,
but,
yeah.
I still, going back to LaFleur, like, I always thought he shouldn't have really pushed Pettin out. But for whatever reason he did. And then he stuck with Barry way too long. I always thought Pettin was fine. Like, I think Pettin did what you would think somebody with the personality he had would do.
Yeah.
But he stuck in the playoffs, and I guess that was enough. But yeah, the Cincinnati and Tennessee, I think this is going to be the high scoring game of the week. So anybody with fantasy players, you might want to start. Chase Brown, probably going to go nuts.
Just stay healthy.
Stay healthy. You said Chase Brown and Jamar Chase.
And Jamar Chase, yeah.
And by extension, you need Joe Burrow, of course.
I had like a 20% chance of winning. Yeah, and Burrow would have to stay healthy. I had like a 20% chance of winning going into Monday night.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not even that worried. Now, I didn't think they were going to do what they did, but
yeah. Yeah. We'll see what happens with that game. Commanders Saints. I'm not going to spend a ton of time because it looks like Derek Carr's out for the year.
Yeah,
and it'll be Spencer Rattler this game. I'm going to take the Commanders pretty convincingly. They haven't been playing as well as they were early in the year, but I'm going to take the Commanders 24-14.
Yeah, that's a good score. I'm going to say Commanders 26-17.
Remember when we thought the Commanders would win the NFC East?
Oh, no.
That was like a month ago, and it's just like we have never looked so stupid as
I know I've had some very bad predictions.
Yeah, but the Eagles take everyone. Like we thought, like, oh, Sirianni's getting fired.
Maybe it's a good thing we don't have that many viewers.
I don't care. I mean, Cowherd gets like hundreds of thousands of people listening to his show.
I kind of don't mind being wrong if it just brought people.
Hell, maybe if we were wrong more, people would listen to us.
That's true.
So, but
we just got to piss off the right people. We haven't been able to do that yet.
I'm gonna start an OnlyFans, but
that'll piss everyone off.
Yeah. Feet pics, $5.99. But
there's a market.
Know your market. Hairy feet pics. I got them. Anyway, I think the Commanders they're like the classic young team that like was fire early, and they're like, I don't know about this team. Like, and you know what's funny is like I guess we were talking about the Rams being the 7th seed, but like we kind of forgot like the Commanders are probably the 3rd wild card team. Like,
yeah, they are.
But no one feels good about them. Like, it's kind of like they're just everybody went, oh yeah. Well, hopefully somebody from the NFC West will get the wild
Cliff
card.
Kingsbury will never get another job in the NFL again if the Commanders don't make the playoffs. I mean, they should, and I think they
should.
will.
And if you look at their schedule, it's pretty manageable down the stretch. Like they get the Saints this week, they get Eagles the following. That's tough, but it's at home, and then the Falcons, who are playing like one of the worst teams in the league right now, and then
they're terrible
at Dallas. That's a pretty manageable schedule.
Yeah, they should get 3 wins out of that.
Yeah, I mean, really, realistically, they probably only need 2 to get to that 7th seed. It might be close depending on if the Rams or the 49ers can surge, or I guess whoever that NFC West winner is. The big game will be Green Bay, Seattle. I think that will kind of decide a lot about the NFC West race. But it's kind of a forgotten team, and I think a lot of it is because the Commanders have not played like a big game in a while. They've played such a soft schedule over the last month. One of the games they lost against Dallas, but they haven't played like a meaningful game since the Eagles, and that was back on.
That was a Thursday night game. Like
that was on November 14th. That was nearly a month ago.
Yeah, a month ago now.
Yeah, so it's been a while since the Commanders have played a meaningful game, and they're probably not playing a big game this weekend either. But we're both taking the Commanders, so we'll move on. Super Bowl 35 rematch here, and I think the score might be the same.
Is this the lowest point the Giants have been in since like the late 70s? Like when they were flying the plane over the Meadowlands, we watch.
Yeah, probably because they know they don't have a franchise quarterback because Daniel Jones isn't even there anymore. Because like even like 2020, 2021 when they were really bad, they're like, oh well, maybe Daniel Jones can be good. We'll see. Like 2019, like, and then before that they had Eli. And even before Eli was there, they had like, you know, the Kerry Collins years where they were okay. They made a Super Bowl.
John Fossil, yeah.
Like it was probably like you said, the late 70s. This is the worst the Giants have been since before Parcells got there.
Mm-hmm.
And woof. And I think the
15-point spread.
That's the biggest spread you'll see, I think, in the NFL this year.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I think if the Lions played the Giants,
those lines like years ago, but this is the biggest spread I've seen in quite a while.
I feel like the only spread that would be bigger is if the Lions play this team at home.
Yes,
I think if Detroit played the Giants in Detroit, it would be like a 19-point spread.
Oh yeah,
and I would pick the Lions to cover that actually, but because the Lions love running up the score against bad teams.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to take the Ravens here. I would even take them to cover. If you have Lamar Jackson this week, this should be a fun game for you, or Derrick Henry. One of them will score some touchdowns. I'm going to take a repeat of the score of Super Bowl 35. I'm going to take 35-7 Ravens.
Yeah.
Just to be fun, because it's not going to be a close game. I think the Ravens win convincingly.
Yeah. I'm going to say I'm going to go Was
it 35-7?
I think it was 34-7. I'll go 34-7 then.
Oh, it was 34-7. Damn. The fact that I was like, I didn't like look it up. I just kind of knew it off the top of my head, but I was like just off by a point. Like that was still impressive.
That was,
yeah. But yeah, Christy used to be like, how can you name the scores of Super Bowls 10 years ago, but you can't remember how to like study for
where the spoons are.
Yeah. She's like, you can't remember to pay your power bill on time, but you know, yeah. Anyway, Yeah, we both have Ravens here. Cowboys at Carolina. You know, I'll say this about the Cowboys. Since Dak got hurt, this team has like played really hard and
Yeah,
been
they
chippy.
have.
I don't think like I'm gonna be like the guy on an island here. I think McCarthy has earned another year in Dallas. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think he's getting all the blame for how the season's going, and I think he is the scapegoat. I don't know if Jerry feels the same way, but everybody's just quick to just say McCarthy is the problem. I think if anything, I think the Cowboys had a lot of flaws on their roster, and it showed up this year. I like the way they're playing the last couple weeks, but I like the way Carolina's playing the last few weeks. Bryce Young has been legitimately good.
Yes.
He would have had a much better stat line if Xavier Legette would have caught that pass. I think this is going to be one of the entertaining games of the early window. I think I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers to win 24-20. Close game in Charlotte.
Yeah, I think this is also a week Carolina gets there. They've been knocking on the door for the last couple weeks, pretty close. Yeah.
It is amazing how Bryce has found his confidence, though.
Yes.
Like, I'm shocked.
He's playing more confident. The numbers aren't there yet, obviously, but that's because he's playing with some pretty terrible players. Yeah. But, yeah, I think this is the week that they break through. I'm going to take a lower scoring game. I'm going to say 20-16 Carolina wins.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a good score. I just figured because Dallas doesn't have the defense like Philly does. But you know, it's I think Carolina, if they win this game and like kind of finish strong, like that'll be kind of, I'll have to take a good long look at them next year, because there's always a team that like kind of overachieves the following season and makes like the playoffs as like a 7 or a 6 seed. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far yet, but it depends on how they end the season, I think. Oh my God,
Lord, this is December football, man.
Who is announcing this game? I want to know.
Let me see. I have 506.
Is it a CBS game?
This would be like a Tom McCarthy game on CBS if it is.
Ooh.
506,
right? 506 Sports.
Yeah, let me look here. Oh no, it's on Fox. It's Chris Myers and Mark Schlereth. It is a very small window of people that could actually watch this game.
They got it. It's just like, because Jacksonville's such a tiny part. Yeah. It's basically like the rest stops north of the Georgia-Florida line and then the city of Jacksonville. Yeah. So like if you're at the Brunswick, Georgia TA truck stop, like you can watch the Jacksonville Jets game
on the local box.
Yeah. And then, you know, if you're in the New York metropolitan area, you can watch.
If you're in Hartford, Connecticut, you could watch this game, but
yeah. Albany, New York, they got you. Oh my God. What's awesome is like I think the Jags will still win. Like that's like, the funniest part is I feel like Rodgers will definitely be the better quarterback. Jacksonville still wins the game. Like give me Jacksonville 17-16. The Jets miss an extra point to tie the game.
Or they go for 2 and Rodgers dirts the ball or something like that.
Or like he'll throw it and Garrett Wilson ran the wrong route and you just see Rodgers going like.
Did you see? So that was on Red Zone on Sunday, the end of their game. So I didn't see overtime, obviously, because the Bears game had already started, which I probably should have just watched it anyways. But so this is how the Jets, and this is when I knew the Jets were going to lose. So it was 2020.
I usually know it before the game starts.
I knew it at kickoff.
Freaking Jets.
So it was 20-20. They had the ball like 3rd and 21. They were in field goal range, but they were kind of like on the outskirts. Miami had no timeouts left, and the Jets, I think, had 2. and there was about 56 seconds left. And Rodgers throws a back shoulder sideline ball to Devontae. He catches it for like 8 or 9 yards out of bounds. I was like, why didn't you throw the ball in the middle of the field and work the clock all the way down and then kick the field goal? But because they
did you not learn a lesson from Dan Campbell?
7-8 seconds off the clock, right? 7-8 seconds came off the clock, and then Miami ran the kickoff back to the 40, and I was like, oh wow, you know how this is gonna. They're gonna tie the game. They're gonna win in overtime. Sure enough, that's what happened. I mean, like that's Rodgers saying like, this is what we used to do in Green Bay, and totally forgetting the situation at hand. Like, yeah. I'm just gonna throw it to my buddy, and we're going to get some yardage for the two of us, but I'm not going to try to hit, somebody over the middle to work some clock down. Or
like, the game you're in.
I was
win the game. And the only thing worse than that, because I remember that situation, the only thing worse than that last week was when Buffalo ran the ball on first down and goal.
Oh, yes.
In the Rams game, because I was like, and Brady made a great point about that, where he's like, you effectively ended the game with the onside kick percentage where it's like what 5% of onside kicks are recovered,
if that.
So like very few, like 1 out of maybe 30 kicks get recovered. But if you had passed and it's incomplete, you get another down with no clock stoppage. But you're forced to burn a timeout, so you forced yourself into an onside kick. If they had all 3 timeouts, you would have been able to kick it off, play defense, and maybe get the ball back, with Josh Allen needing like 10, 15 yards to get in field goal range in like 20 seconds, which is possible because it's Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
That's a better play, but it's like that's where, like, what drives me crazy is like these guys are not paid nothing.
Yeah, I know.
These guys are paid in some cases, in the Rodgers case, $30 to $40 million a year. And you do that.
Yeah. That's why I wonder, like, what does, like,
your job is to
really creep in like that much that you forget, like, that any Joe Schmo on his couch can tell you, like, that's not the play you should run, or that's not the route concept you should be looking for.
Or like, just like in situations like even a few years ago, it's like when an Auburn kid ran out of bounds and it gave Alabama the ball back.
Yes.
And Bryce Young takes them down the field and it saved their playoff season, basically.
Yeah.
Like, they got back into the playoffs. It's like, is there not a coach in that kid's ear? Don't run out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. Like, we're not, like, because you effectively in the game, if you just listen to directions, like, it just, like, it happens so much in pro football, though. Like, I get it in college a little bit. Like, mistakes happen. They're technically amateurs, but like in the NFL, we see this like kind of mistake happen like twice a week, and it blows my mind. I'm thinking, like, the amount of money these guys get paid to play or coach, and they make basics mistake. Even like Dan Campbell going for it on fourth, that was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he got bailed out because Jared Goff made a play on his knee.
Yeah.
Like, but him tripping over was why you don't go for it.
Exactly.
Like, just take your
crazy things happen
and trust your defense to make one stop or kick it out of bounds, and you basically into the air, like, kick it through the back of the end zone. The game's over. But yeah, the malpractice of some of these coaches is crazy. But that was a great example. But who did you take in this game again?
I didn't take anybody yet. I'll take the Jets, I guess. I guess they can't lose forever. I want them to lose forever, but I'll take them 23-21. I'm
going to ask my coworker, Matt. He's a diehard Jets fan. I'm going to ask him if he's going to go to this game. Because, like, it's a 5-hour drive. And
why not? Yeah.
I mean, and I'm like, hey, Jacksonville's fun. I mean, it's a good time. You can get in the hot tub. And no, but like, so this is 10 years ago. This is right around the same time. 10 years ago. Do you remember the game that me and
the toilet bowl game?
Yeah, me and Harrison went to Titans and Jags, and this is not as bad. Unbelievably, this game is not as
Somehow.
bad as because these teams have 6 combined wins, and I think that game had 4 combined wins.
Yeah,
And that was
I think it was a week later too.
Yeah, it was week 16. Yeah, it was the week of Christmas. Like, and it's Thursday night, and like I'm just thinking, like, I can't believe Jim Nance and Phil Simms are at this game. Like Jim Nance was probably thinking, like, I'm in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
What
How am I
doing?
gonna make this?
Yeah. And the best was like they were doing the opening intro, and I'm like, the Jags defense was getting introed that game, and like Sindaric Marks comes out, and the crowd goes crazy, and I'm like, who the hell is that? And Harrison's like, it's their best player on defense, and I go like, I have no idea who this is. I was like,
Are we sure they didn't just bring him out of the crowd?
He made yeah, and like so I always remember they did the top 100 players of 2015, and he was like coming in at number 87, Sindaric Marks. And I was like, this is perfect. The Jags' best player is 87. Oh man. But I love bad Jags Jets football. It's just
yeah, you can't.
It's December. Jags Jets 3-10 each team. Oh, just great. Love it.
Love America. This
is a big game, and this is one of, I think, probably the best game of the early window in my opinion. Dolphins, who are 6-7, I mean, really have been playing great football the last month. Take out the Thanksgiving night at Lambeau. They just didn't show up. I guess they were too cold.
Wasn't cold enough, I guess.
I think, like, and I've been saying this all year, like, Neil, I'm going to whisper it to you. We only have 2 people listening. CJ Stroud is overrated.
Ooh.
He really is. He's not been good.
No, he hasn't been. It's not been good at all.
Can I say this? Like, let me say this. Over the last month, Bryce Young has been the better quarterback. CJ Stroud. Like, the Texans are a better team than the Panthers, but this Texans team's not good. Like,
what happened?
I don't know with Stroud though. Like, they have a good record, but it's it seems like this team they're just off.
They're the typical. We said it before. They're the typical AFC South winner.
Yeah. Just lock them into the 4 seed, I guess. Yeah. Or they'll be the 3. No, they'll be the 4 because Pittsburgh's going to be ahead of them. Yeah. So, in this situation, though, you mean the Texans are the 8-5 team, but the Dolphins are 6-7. But I think Miami's better than them right now. I don't see why the Texans are just automatically favored to win this game. I'm going to take Miami here. I'm going to take them by a touchdown, 24-17. Give me Miami.
I'm also going to take Miami. I'll take them by a field goal, though. I think they go to overtime again this week. I'm going to take Miami 27-24. Obviously, it doesn't hurt Houston, really, because they have their cushion. But, I mean, they're not going to feel excited when the playoffs roll around and they're playing the first game on Wild Card Weekend.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say they are 100%. They should be the Peacock game.
They should be the Peacock game.
They're going to be the ESPN game. Yeah. Yes. Louis Riddick. Hey, Louis, just go ahead and book your hotel room.
Yeah, you and Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be fire. And then Joe Buck will obviously do, like, and Aikman will do the Monday night.
Yes,
but like, oh man, and it used to be Brian Greasy would always be with that crew too, but he's not coaching.
Right.
But yeah, and then Saturday, like the Peacock game. Oh, the Peacock game's gonna be us 100%.
Oh, probably.
Because we're gonna make Steven pay $4.99 for it. Anyway, we like the Dolphins here, and the thing about Miami is like I outside, like I said, outside of that Green Bay game, like they've been playing pretty good over the
Yeah.
last month. I mean, since Tua came back, the game that's going to kill them is that Cardinals loss at home.
Yes.
It's just looking back at that, like if the Bills loss, wouldn't say is bad. They played the Bills down to the wire. But if they can win this game, like their last 3 are very winnable. I think if they win this game, put Miami in as a 7th seed in the AFC. I think it's, or maybe the 6. I guess Baltimore's or Pittsburgh, they'll be the 5, right?
Yeah.
And then the Chargers are going to be probably the 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, you put Miami, you would think, or Indianapolis are probably like contending for the 7. Yeah, and I think from an entertainment standpoint, I'd much rather have Miami than Indianapolis.
Or Denver.
Denver, I think, is the best of the 3.
Oh, they're definitely the best of the 3, but
it's almost the most
entertainment
boring, of the 3. Because it's like, hey, Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton. That's like, that's I don't know. Just I'd like to see Tyreek Hill in a playoff game, but that's me.
Yeah.
And I guess they have other problems. They'd probably have to go to Buffalo. I was thinking like maybe they could get to a warm weather
game. Again.
Yeah. Just get this team like out of a cold weather game. Like if we can get them in Houston, that would be great.
Yeah. They'd win for the first time in 24 years.
The way the AFC is kind of structured right now, there's really no warm weather teams that are like all the good teams are cold weather teams.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it should be.
Yeah. And then this is a huge game.
This is a massive game.
This is one of the games, like there's a lot of big games this weekend, but this is like in the AFC probably has the most swing. At least so far that we've listed. I think Indianapolis is a total fraud. I don't think they're anywhere close to a playoff team. And somehow they've like the entire year, they've just been hovering around 500. I think this is the week they go into Denver. I think Denver's going to smash them. Like, I'm thinking Sean Payton coming off a bye. I think Bo Nix is playing like a rookie of the year. I don't think he's going to win it, though. I'd probably give it to Bowers or Jaden Daniels before him at this point, too. Give me Denver by 17, 34-17.
You know, the interesting thing about the Broncos, like, and Bo Nix has played well for a rookie.
He's good. He's not rookie of the year good, though.
Yeah. But the weird thing about them is their offense is just as efficient as they were last year.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is their defense is so much better this year than they were a year ago. Which I'm sure Russell Wilson is probably like, where was that last year?
I always had that take, though, like in my defense, I guess, like because I've always kind of been a Broncos defender, but like I never thought Russ was that bad in Denver. Like,
yeah, no, he was all right last year.
The problem is
as good as Bo Nix is right now.
Yeah, I mean the trajectory though is you think
the trajectory is different. Yeah,
Bo Nix will probably take a year 2, year 3 step, while Russ is probably trending down just because of age. But like, I think the people that were like Russ is bad, I'm like, you're not watching. Like, Russ was bad 2 years ago, absolutely.
Yeah, he was terrible.
Yeah, he was terrible in 22. But I think that was more of a Nate Hackett thing than anything.
Yeah,
and last year, like, I thought he was fine, and everybody's like, "This Broncos team's terrible." I'm like, if they make the playoffs, if they don't lose to the Patriots on Christmas Eve, in a kind of a fluky game,
their defense was god awful last year, and this year they're second in points allowed. Like, so I mean, they like if we're talking about assistants of the year, like he's not going to win it because probably Flores wins it. Vance Joseph deserves to be up for it.
Yeah, he's been coaching his ass off, and
I mean they've totally turned around who they were. I'm also going to take the Broncos. I won't take them by 17, but I think they win by a touchdown. But it's a solid touchdown victory. I'll say like 28-21.
Yeah, I think like the last 2 years, my Sean Payton takes have been very accurate, though. I think like and to me it wasn't that hard because it's you can think Sean Payton is a total dick. A lot of people do.
And he is.
And you can say bounty gate and all that. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. Like, I'm not a Sean Payton fan, but I know facts are facts. Just like I always say this with McCarthy, is like, he's got a freaking track record. Okay. Like we know, like after 10 years, I kind of know if a coach is good. Tomlin's the same way.
Yeah.
Like if the guy averages 10 wins a year, I'm kind of willing to bet that the guy's going to win 10 games.
Yeah. Right.
And Sean Payton has a track record. So when he went to Denver and people were like, oh, he's a terrible coach. Meanwhile, these same people are like, you know who's going to be really good? Shane Steichen. How do we like Shane Steichen can be great, but he's probably not. Like I like the proven track record coach. I think Sean Payton's done a great job. I think he is very deserving of Coach of the Year. He's not going to win it. But just like Bo Nix is like deserving, I think, of consideration for Rookie of the Year. He's not going to win it, but Denver will win this game. If I could do a lock of the week, this is my lock of the week. I don't think Indianapolis is gonna. This defense is gonna suffocate Anthony Richardson. Like, I'm almost willing to guarantee that Richardson will have less than 100 yards passing in this game. Like I think it'll be like Denver's secondary is that good. And funny enough, I say that, and like they did give up like 400 yards to Jerry Jeudy, but I like Denver in this game. This is the game of the week, though. Obviously, Buffalo, Detroit, two best teams in the NFL. You would think. Kansas City has the best record of the AFC teams, but I think everybody is kind of feeling Buffalo right now. It's kind of frustrating for Buffalo that like you had to go to LA and then like you don't get a reprieve from that. You had to go straight into Detroit, and you're almost going to deal with the same exact kind of attack where they're going to run the ball, control the clock.
It was about 10 years ago this week that Buffalo had to play a home game in Detroit.
I will tell you this. Thank God I have a bye week in fantasy, because if I had to go against Josh Allen or Jared Goff in this game, that would suck. That'd be awful, because I think this game is going to have a combined 80 points, like possibly, just like like maybe not that many, but like 75 maybe.
Yeah,
it's going to be a scoring fest. I think both of these defenses on like in a neutral game script suck, and Detroit fans will try to say, "Oh, our defense is just injured." I think your defense is trash. Like straight up. I think once Hutchinson went, like you have Smith, but Smith is great in the first two quarters, but he's not in shape. Like once you get to the fourth quarter, you can move on Detroit easily. And they knew it, and that's why they went for it on fourth down. That's a big problem, I think, for the Lions, and why I don't think they'll get to the Super Bowl. Their defense is soft at the end of games. The Bears nearly took them out the same way. I don't think that's a couple of guys got hurt and they'll be back type of thing. Yeah. I think that's not fixable. And the Lions have also been a very lucky team the last month. I feel like a lot of breaks have gone their way. Like,
especially the last two games for sure.
Their fourth down conversion rate is a little unsustainable too. Like they go for it a lot on fourth down, and they always seem to make it. Like last week, as a Packers fan, like they went like 4 for 4 on the fourth down, and they went 4 for 5. But like, I think every pivotal moment, I feel like they made it, and I think they win this game though. I think I'm going to pick Detroit, because I think Buffalo is actually a very similar team in the flaws that they have. I'm going to take the home team, high scoring, 34-31. But my point about Detroit remains. I think they have some inherent flaws that if they play Philadelphia or even maybe Green Bay, they're going to have problems in January.
I'm actually going to go with Buffalo to win this game. Buffalo is a team that I think they're coached well enough under McDermott that when they have a loss like that they're good to regroup again the following week. Obviously, last year they had quite a few losses, but the fact last year that they were able to regroup from 6-6, face the hardest part of their schedule and win out. I know obviously Detroit's coached very well, but
yeah.
I just have this feeling that Buffalo is going to bounce back after last week. And maybe in some ways not that they would have been, and especially not against a team like the Rams, where what they did last Sunday is totally under their capability. But maybe they were looking a little bit ahead to Detroit. The juices were flowing after the fact that they beat Green Bay and now they're 12-1 and like, oh, hey, we get to play them next. Buffalo seems like the team that's going to end this winning streak. I'm going to take Buffalo by a touchdown. I'm going to take them 34-27.
Yeah, and I see your point too, because I also think Buffalo doesn't feel like the type of team to lose back-to-back games.
Mm-hmm.
Like that seems like a team that is so good that coming off a loss, like they'll bring a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Detroit's offense is pretty special. Their rushing attack.
Their team is just.
You know who they remind me of? And a lot of people will go like, oh, and like I don't think they remind me of a Super Bowl team. They remind me a lot of the 2019 Saints.
Yeah. Or just those Saints teams in general.
Those Saints teams and it would make sense because Campbell came from that.
Yeah.
And the thing about the Lions is I think they're a very front-running team, just like Buffalo. And whoever controls the first quarter of this game will win the game. And I can actually see this situation where whoever controls the game in the first quarter actually wins by more than a touchdown. Like it could be a 2-possession kind of game. Like,
mm-hmm.
And Detroit has shown that before. Like last year when Green Bay went in there on Thanksgiving and took a 2-possession lead, like they don't recover. They don't really they're kind of a schoolyard bully. Like they get punched in the mouth. I don't actually know if they know how to punch back, just like Buffalo. And I think that's the inherent flaw with both of these teams. The problem is like they're the same team. And so I'm going to take the home team in this situation, but I kind of agree with you in a way. I could also see Buffalo taking this game. Like I'm very on the fence, but I'm going to go conservative, like 4-point game. But in reality, it could be a runaway on either side. But if it's a runaway game, usually you side with the home team.
With the home team, yeah,
because it's hard to run away with a road win. We're talkative tonight.
We are.
This is a Pennsylvania Bowl.
Yeah.
Was it COVID when these teams played?
Yes. Cooper, or excuse me, what's his name?
Carson Wentz?
No. Who am I thinking of? Claypool. he
Chase
had his breakout game.
Oh, yeah, because people were like, Chase Claypool is the best rookie receiver in the 2020 class. And we're like, I don't know. This Jefferson guy is pretty good.
Yeah.
Is Chase Claypool even in the NFL anymore?
He was on Buffalo during training camp. I doubt he's even on their practice squad anymore. Let me look.
Yeah, he's a free agent. What a fall. That's unbelievable. That actually kind of blows my mind a little bit because he was really good as a rookie.
Yeah, he was.
He had 800 yards, 9 touchdowns, and then just like it's like the night that he played against Minnesota on Thursday and like he screwed up and like celebrated.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think that was the end of his career.
Like Tomlin's like, you're done. Sorry. Yeah. Like, Tom was like, I'll make sure you never play another snap in the NFL. Yeah. And he didn't. And this game, so what's funny, we just talked about Buffalo, Detroit, and you asked like the average NFL fan, like, who are your teams that you want to see in the Super Bowl? They would say Buffalo and Detroit. Like that's the matchup everyone wants.
Yeah, that's the underdog bowl.
And I think these two teams right here
this would be an awesome, Pennsylvania Super Bowl.
Feel like super, like it's hard to say Russell Wilson is the quarterback of a Super Bowl team, but like the way the league is right now, where running games control so much in defense
and coaching.
I think it's defense and coaching, and really the defense, because the other two teams I just mentioned, their defenses are soft front running defenses. These two teams, these two teams can play from behind. They can play from in front. Any situation you throw at them, they got championship mettle. Like, the only reservation I have about the Steelers right now is that Russell Wilson's their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But Jalen Hurts ain't been great either.
No, Jalen, they're not happy with him in Philadelphia.
I am fascinated by this game. I think it's going to be low scoring, smash mouth ball. I'm excited to watch. Like, it's December. It's in Philly. It's going to be gross. Like, give me the Eagles 17-16, and just like and is this a CBS game or
it is? It's the CBS game, yeah.
And this is Nance Roma for sure.
Yeah, they're going to be competing against Buffalo and Detroit,
and that's a Fox game.
Yeah, it's the Fox game,
and they're both in the late window.
And they're both in the late window. Very.
It's weird they would do that. Like, where they have both of the best games in the same window.
Well, this is the time of the year that the networks don't want to give up their big games.
That's fair. And those are two. Like, no one really thought this game would be big because of the Steelers being this good. But, this is going to be the game where, like, a tipped pass goes to review, and it's like, oh, Jim, I don't know. Oh, and then you go to break, and he's like,
Big Dom takes a swing at TJ Watt.
Oh yeah, I'm I'll probably do the YouTube TV split screen between this and the other game.
Oh yeah, that's what it was made for.
Give me Philly 17-16. That's very non-committal. 1 point.
Yeah. Game. Man, I mean, I could see it going either way. Pittsburgh does seem kind of like I said it a few months ago, but what I said was that I'm not comparing this to like 2008 or 2010 or 2005 or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I wasn't saying that then, and I still don't think I'm saying it yet. But they kind of do feel like they have a little bit of destiny in them.
You know who they remind me of? The 2003 Panthers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because, similar, Jake Delhomme's your quarterback.
Yeah. And a wily veteran coming. Yeah.
But their front is so, their front has, 2 Hall of Famers on it.
Yeah.
I couldn't even say that about the Panthers. The Panthers had Chris Jenkins, Brenson Buckner, Mike Rucker, and Julius Peppers, one of them being a Hall of Famer. But the way that this defense is playing, they're so physical up front. They can control pretty much any team they play. Look at the way they played Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was basically neutralized, and this is the only team that can neutralize Lamar. Every other opponent the Ravens have played, they put up yards.
Yes.
This defense, they don't. And I think Saquon Barkley is the ultimate test. Because I think he's been the best player in the league this year. He won't win MVP because he's not a quarterback, but he's the best player.
Yes.
Pound for pound. This is basically an immovable object against an unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I would say it too.
I want to see that collision because it's Saquon is so explosive and so dynamic, but this defense doesn't let any of that happen. What's going to give? I think I always side with the defense when there's a tie like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the Steelers here, but oh man, I love this game.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with Pittsburgh too.
Yeah.
And it would be hilarious if, obviously the Eagles will be scoreboard watching.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh will be scoreboard watching too. The other game that's going on at this moment. And but if Detroit loses, like I predicted, Philly's gonna be we're gonna be the 1 seed. And I think Pittsburgh is gonna pull it out. I'm gonna say Pittsburgh in overtime.
Maybe one of the things as a Packers fan, I'm gonna complain about one thing real fast. Is the fact that we have 4 losses this year, and they're to Philly, who is 12-2, or 11-2. There's Minnesota, who's
Detroit.
10 and Detroit, who's 11-2, and then Minnesota, who's 10-3.
No.
Two
Minnesota is 11-2. Detroit's 12-1.
Oh yeah, excuse me. Yeah, Detroit's 12-1.
You took one win away from both of them. They're better. They're better than you made them.
3 of the 4 games we lost by like an average of like 3 points. The only game we lost convincingly was against Detroit at home, where Love was
a rainstorm.
Love was just not healthy in that game. So that's like a little like I'm just so bitter because it's like, can we have a freaking break? But Philly's really good. I think that, to me, like if I'm picking a team in the NFC, that's my team right there.
We could skip over this. That was such a letdown to go from those 2 games to this one.
Yeah. I think the Cardinals are fighting for a playoff spot, but they've been pretty bad the last couple of weeks. They just don't have the roster yet.
They lost 3 in a row. Yeah, it's starting to fall from them. They had a great November.
I'm actually going to take the Patriots in this. I think the Patriots. I think Drake May has a big performance. And we started to talk about him as like a big star coming. He's been really good.
I'm a Drake May homer.
You were right. Really, I think we were both right about all the court. Like we were all like, I don't think it's really just a good quarterback class, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been a fun. Hopefully it continues going on after this year, and they keep getting better because it'd be good for the league.
I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen like that, unfortunately. But no, yeah, I'm going to take. I think Arizona is reeling right now, and I think, I think the Patriots are going to win by, I don't know, a field goal.
Yeah, I'll take the Patriots as well by 4, 20-16. Bucks Chargers.
This game is going to get overshadowed by the other 2 games.
Yeah. It's kind of like Sparadides will definitely do this game.
No, this is an Adam Amin game.
I feel like Sparrow always does the Chargers.
He does do a lot of Chargers games.
Yeah, because like I always hear his voice in my head, like the Chargers,
Herbert.
Yeah, like the way you look, touchdown Chargers.
He's actually doing the Colts Broncos game.
Bo Nix. But I'm gonna take the Chargers here in a rebound game.
A lot of late games this week.
Yeah, they kind of flooded. It's kind of frustrating. Like, I mean, you couldn't put the Chargers in the early window. But,
and you can't put the Broncos in the early window either.
Yeah. But I will take the Chargers. Give me 28-24.
Yeah, 27-20 Chargers.
Okay. Sunday night game. This is stressful because Green Bay having to go to Seattle. We have not won there, I believe, since the
06.
Oh, yeah, we won there.
Oh, wait,
yeah.
maybe.
Oh, no, yeah, 08. We won there in 08. I forgot about that game. That was Mike Holmgren's last year in Seattle, actually.
Wow.
But yeah, we just historically don't play very well in Quest Field or CenturyLink or whatever the hell they call it now. Lumen Field is what they call it now. Seattle's been playing a lot better since their bye too.
They've had they won their first 3, then they lost 5 of 6. Now they've won 5 in a row.
Yeah, 4 in a row.
4 in a row.
Yeah, they beat San Fran, they beat the Cardinals, the Jets, and then the Cardinals again. I think their defense is playing a lot better. Their secondary is really good.
And they're running the ball really effectively too.
Green Bay is going to have to stop the run, and then I think they're going to have to do a kind of similar to what they did last week against Detroit. I think this will be about controlling the ball with Jacobs. Jacobs is the key to the Packers offense. It's not Love this year. It's about like when they give Jacobs the ball 20 plus times, I feel very confident in their chances to beat anybody. because that dude, he gets overshadowed because obviously Saquon's like electric. You have players like McCaffrey when he's healthy. Obviously, he's dynamic. You get Henry, who's a smash mouth player, but like Jacobs is just a guy that when you give him the ball, you're getting 5-6 yards. You're controlling the line of scrimmage. You're getting ahead of, I guess, ahead of the sticks, setting up play action, doing like the little things right. They're going to have to do that in this game. That being said, I think Seattle's playing so well right now. I think Green Bay is going to take a second straight loss. I'm going to take the Seahawks 28-24, close game.
I know you're going to say that I always take the Packers, and I do. But
and I always take the opponents.
Yeah. But I think having the extra 3 days to kind of let that loss settle last week, I think that's going to do them some good. Seattle had a very impressive win, like we said last week. They kind of showed their muscle against Arizona.
Yeah.
But I think Green Bay is going to bounce back well. I think, I've been a Matt LaFleur supporter always, even though I find him annoying sometimes, but he was justified last week and everything but
he does cry.
Yeah, I think Green Bay is going to show how well coached they are. And I think they're going to win. I don't think I think Seattle's playing better, but I don't think they're like Green Bay is the NFC's, they're a top 3 team in the NFC, top 4 team in the NFC, I should say. I don't think Seattle, they're going to win their division likely. I don't think they're a top 4 team in the conference. I don't think they're even a top 5 team.
I think the big X factor is that this is a Sunday night game on the road across the country in a place that's really hard to win. I think that's the
two straight road.
If this game were in Green Bay, I would take the Packers, no problem.
Yeah,
but it's a tough matchup. This is one game I circled, I think, at the beginning of the year for us. I just penciled in as a loss. That's just tough. Like, I'll believe it when I see it when we win in Seattle. I think we can, but I don't know if we will. That being said, Green Bay is pretty locked into the playoffs at this point. There's not that much to play for outside of seeding. They'd have to like lose out, and then it would need like things to happen almost for them to miss the playoffs at this rate.
Yeah. No, they won't miss it. I guess the only thing that they're in fear of is dropping to the 7 seed.
Yeah, because then you'd have to go to
Philly or possibly Detroit or possibly Minnesota.
I would love to play Detroit.
Oh yeah,
I've been saying that. Hell, make it happen. I'd happily be the 7 seed.
We're 2 years in a row.
I'm saying this like we're beating Detroit. Like it's gonna happen.
You heard it here first, everybody.
It's gonna happen. Like
it is.
Detroit pulled out all the stops, and I think we controlled the ball. I think we pushed them around. That's the thing. It's like I think we pushed a team that prides itself on biting kneecaps and dragging knuckles. Like, I don't know, but I think this matchup's not favorable for the Packers. I'll take Seattle. Let's not spend too much time on that. We do this every week with the Bears. Like,
yeah, no, I don't need to talk about them or hear about them. Minnesota.
I'm taking the Vikings. I won't take that much. I'll do. I think this is the game you lose frustratingly close, and y'all screw up at the end.
This is the game they've done that a number of times.
27-21. You get inside the 10-yard line, and then your center snaps it over Caleb's head.
Hey, at least no, Caleb's interceptionless streak ends on like the last play of the game.
Yeah. Like he throws it
on a pass that goes through DJ Moore's hands.
No tip pass where whoever who's the guy that they drafted?
Odunze?
No, the Vikings, the defensive line.
I
keep wanting to say Verse. It's not him. See how
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Greenert? No.
No.
Shoot.
I should know this. It's 11:30. But anyway, like I think like it's the kind of game where y'all like storm back in the fourth quarter, just like Detroit.
Just like Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you lose, and it would be very frustrating. My question is, will Justin Jefferson try to choke Sam Darnold by the third quarter? That's it. That's my main question. Because I think Jordan Addison's his number one read.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like my favorite thing to do is go to the sleeper comments under Justin Jefferson and be like, Sam Darnold needs to be looked into by the FBI. Like these people are like down bad. Like it's pretty funny to read, honestly. Last game of the week. Crazy. Like, revenge game, by the way.
Oh, Desmond Ridder.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, the Falcons are in the same exact place that they were last year with Desmond Ridder. I think they were 6-7 at this point, and they're 6-7 right now.
Yeah.
And you almost think, like, what if Arthur Smith had Penix or Kirk Cousins? Like, would they be better? Like, the Falcons to me, like, are just. I've never seen a team that's like has a really good chance of making the playoffs be such an overwhelmingly bad team.
Mm-hmm.
This team should be 5-8, by the way, because remember that Philly game they won?
Yes.
In week 2, like they should not have won that.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have won the Tampa game. This team should be like 4-9. They should be closer to the Jets.
Closer to the Bears.
Yeah.
than the playoffs.
Yeah. They should be like they really should be what the Jets are this year. Like they kind of play like that, but they've had some close wins bounce their way. I'm going to take the Raiders in this game. Like, I think that's crazy because the Raiders suck, but I've watched the Falcons the last month. They're awful. Like they're really bad. I'm going to take Las Vegas in a 17-14. Just gross. And speaking of our favorite crew, like I think Dan Orlovsky and Louis Riddick will be doing this game.
Yeah, I think I'll take the Raiders because the Falcons are spiraling out of control. Yeah. I just want to know what time of the Bears game am I going to flip over to catch the end of this barn burner?
What's a tragedy is that week 18, the Falcons and Bucks don't play each other. So because that would be like the perfect
NFC South title,
like on Sunday Night Football to end the season. But going through that before we end, like I'm gonna go through the matchups for Sunday Night Football or week 18.
There's one obvious one, and it could be amazing.
Panthers Falcons no, Commanders Cowboys no, Chiefs Broncos maybe if the Broncos are trying to get into the playoffs. But the Chiefs will probably have
this week. It'll be just about locked up for them.
Vikings Lions could be amazing.
Yes, because
you're playing for a bye and a home game.
Yeah, versus going on the road.
Oh, could you imagine Detroit having to go on the road to Atlanta? Like their fans would lose it. Like their dream season, and you have to play a road playoff game.
And they have to go on the
playoffs. It's like, sorry, Sam Darnold just said no. Like, I don't think that's very likely though, because even though I'd have to look, the Vikings' 2 losses are to the Lions. They lost, and then they lost to the Rams on that Thursday night game.
Yeah.
So that's 2 conference losses. The Lions lost to the Bucks. That's it.
I think if if they won out in the if the Vikings went out, I think they win the division.
So they would win the tiebreaker over Detroit?
I think so.
By virtue of what? Common opponents? Because did they play Tampa? They didn't play Tampa.
What if there's a coin toss at the end of the game?
What would it come down to? I gotta like do the simulation now, but that would take too long for a podcast. We have to like figure that out. Why
Yeah,
would
we
Minnesota
do.
get the tiebreaker? Because like the division record would be the same, so they'd both be 5-1 in division, and then conference record comes into equation, and I think they both have 2 losses in conference if that were to happen. So what comes after that? What's the third tiebreaker? Common opponents, but we just mentioned common opponents,
Yeah.
and that's they don't have any common opponents. Like
Or
that
they
would
would
have a
be
loss.
even.
Yeah, they'd be even. It would be strength of schedule.
Let me see here. Wait
Point
a second.
differential.
How do I look?
It wouldn't be point differential because the Lions would have that because they run up the score on everybody.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at playoff status, which is a really awesome website. Oh, this is the one. So if they win out, they still technically wouldn't control their own destiny.
you're the Vikings.
Yeah. They would have a 49% chance of if that's crazy. They could win out, and right now they would have less than a 50% chance of getting the 1 seed.
They could go 15-2 and lose the division.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's realistic because Detroit's remaining schedule, if they beat Buffalo here. And what's crazy to say this, though, is if Buffalo beats Detroit this weekend, I mean, Minnesota is in a realistic position
to come away with
the division. Like Detroit has a lot at stake this week.
Yeah.
Like, and they got and Detroit's pretty fortunate to be in the position they are because last week and then the Houston game to be in the position they are. It's crazy. The NFC, like it's going to be.
This is going to be fun.
The only thing we know is Green Bay is pretty much like we know pretty much Philly's going to be the 2, or they could be the 1.
We don't know.
Yeah, they could be the 1.
We know.
This is muddy.
We know Seattle is probably going to be the 3 seed.
Yeah, Seattle's probably the 3.
And the winner of the NFC, Tampa likely is going to be the 4.
And here's the crazy thing, though. The last 2 weeks, Chuba Hubbard fumbles.
Yeah.
Last week, Xavier Legette. What happens if you just flip those 2 games?
And Carolina hosts Detroit at 15.
Yeah, isn't that crazy to think about? Like Carolina was so close, like just a couple bounces to being a possible playoff team.
Yeah, they would have been 5-8.
We were talking about them that they were the worst team in NFL history. Yeah. And now we're like
long year. It's a long
I mean, they're not making the playoffs now because of those 2 games, but it's funny to think about. But any lasting thoughts before we hit the road?
No, none at the moment. We went for a while tonight.
We did. Yeah. It should be a fun weekend. I think Detroit will probably lock up everything, and congrats to them on the Super Bowl.
Yes, yeah. Good for them. They deserve it.